In their family, holidays were always celebrated with grandeur, but this anniversary for the mother-in-law exceeded all expectations. None of the guests suspected that the ceremonial presentation of gifts would turn into a real drama. When her beloved son dramatically pulled out the keys and announced the joint gift, the young woman felt the ground slip from under her feet. Her own apartment, bought before the marriage, was now being presented to the mother-in-law as a gift from loving children. The guests froze in anticipation of a touching moment, but no one was prepared for what happened next. 7 years. 2,555 days of saving on everything possible. Amanda Ross remembered every month of this marathon, from the first cent she set aside from her lab technician salary at the clinic to the last bill she ceremoniously placed in the envelope marked apartment. Mornings were spent working at the clinic, evenings tutoring chemistry. Schoolchildren came to her rented room in a communal apartment, where the only decoration was a map with new development areas circled in red. Amanda explained formulas and equations while mentally calculating. 1 more month, and I'll have enough for the down payment. Another 6 months, and I can take out a smaller mortgage. Friends invited her on vacations, she refused. Colleagues invited her to corporate dinners at restaurants, she refused. Her mother reproached her for wearing the same coat for the 3rd year. She nodded and remained silent. Amanda had learned to filter out everything that didn't concern her main goal. In her world, there were only work, students, and the envelope with money, which grew thicker every month. She bought the cheapest groceries, mended her tights, and had her hair cut at a vocational school studio where senior students practiced on volunteers. Gradually, friends stopped inviting her anywhere. Why bother if Amanda would refuse anyway? Her social life shrank to a minimum, but her savings grew steadily. Winter was particularly hard, when she wanted new boots to replace worn ones, or spring, when everyone around was updating their wardrobe. Amanda looked at store windows like stage sets, beautiful, but not for her. Not now. Every extra 1,000 was another step toward her own square meters. She studied the real estate market better than any realtor. She knew where buildings were going up, what layouts were offered, and how prices had changed over the past 2 years. She went to apartment viewings like going to work, methodically, with a notebook and a tape measure. Developers already recognized this serious young woman with attentive eyes, who examined every corner and asked professional questions. When her savings were enough for a down payment, Amanda applied for a mortgage. The loan officer was surprised by her income statements: 2 jobs, stable income, a perfect credit history. There were few borrowers as disciplined as her. A 1-bedroom apartment in a new building on the avenue cost $280,000, 38M, 14th floor, south-facing windows. Amanda walked through the empty apartment, inhaling the smell of fresh plaster and imagining where the bed would go, where the desk would stand. For the first time in 7 years, she allowed herself to dream not about the process of saving, but about the result. Signing the contract became a personal celebration. Amanda sat in the real estate agency, holding the keys, unable to believe it had really happened: her own apartment, her address, her intercom, her mailbox, her utility bills. The first month, she simply lived in the empty apartment, enjoying the space. She slept on a mattress on the floor, ate from disposable dishes, but felt like a queen. No one could enter without permission. No one would say, "Move your things." No one would complain about the noise. Absolute freedom in her own 38M. She bought furniture gradually. First, the essentials, then small things for comfort. Amanda chose every item carefully, imagining how it would fit into the interior: a small sofa in the living room, a kitchen set, a wardrobe in the bedroom. Everything was modest, but tasteful. Everything was hers. She quickly got to know her neighbors: a young family with 2 children on the left, an elderly couple on the right, students above. Ordinary people who greeted her in the elevator and didn't make noise at night. Amanda finally understood what it meant to live in normal conditions. Work became easier. The constant tension of saving disappeared. Now her salary went to the mortgage, utilities, and current expenses. But it was an honest distribution of money, not heroic frugality on everything. Amanda allowed herself to update her wardrobe, buy a new phone, and sign up for swimming lessons. Her friends noticed the changes. Amanda held her shoulders back and became more confident. She developed a special walk, the walk of a person who knows she will come home in the evening. Her real home, not a rented room. She smiled more often, agreed to meet friends more readily, and stopped automatically refusing any expense. It was precisely during this period, when her life had settled and her self-esteem had risen, that Amanda met Mike. It happened in a bookstore, where she was choosing a gift for a colleague's birthday. Mike was in the same section, flipping through a guidebook to Italy. "Planning a vacation?" he asked, noticing Amanda glancing at the bright cover. "Not yet," she smiled. "And you?" "I'm thinking about it. Work has been intense, and I need a change of scenery." "Rome or Venice, that's the dilemma." A casual conversation began. Mike turned out to be a manager at a construction company, knowledgeable about architecture and history, speaking easily, with humor, and genuinely listening. Amanda realized she hadn't met such an interesting conversationalist in a long time. They sat in the cafe next to the bookstore until closing time. Mike talked about the projects he had worked on, Amanda about her students and their funny mistakes on tests. The conversation never paused. It felt as if they had known each other for years, just hadn't seen each other in a long time. "Can we meet tomorrow?" Mike asked as they left the cafe. "Sure," Amanda replied, surprised by her own boldness. From that moment, they met almost every day. Mike took her to theaters, exhibitions, and restaurants. For the first time in many years, Amanda allowed herself to live fully. And she could afford it. The apartment was bought, financial stability achieved. Mike immediately spoke about a serious relationship. He said he was tired of casual encounters and wanted to start a family. Amanda was more cautious. 7 years of fighting for an apartment had taught her not to build castles in the air. But Mike was persistent and gentle at the same time. "You're special," he said. "Independent, determined. Women like you are rare." Amanda blossomed under his admiration. The years of saving and self-denial had not been wasted. She was truly strong and capable of achieving her goals. Mike saw and valued these qualities in her. 3 months later, he proposed, romantically, in a restaurant overlooking the river, with a ring and a speech about their future together. Amanda said yes without hesitation. She was ready to share her happiness. The wedding was intimate, close friends, colleagues, and family. Amanda didn't want to spend a fortune on the celebration, and Mike agreed with reasonable frugality. His mother, Sabrina, arrived from Washington for the ceremony. She behaved with exaggerated politeness, but Amanda sensed the assessing looks. "Mom's nervous," Mike explained. "I'm her only son. She wants to make sure I'm in safe hands." After the wedding, Mike moved into Amanda's apartment. It was only natural. He had only a room in a communal apartment he rented. Why pay rent if there's a home of your own? The first weeks of living together were like a honeymoon. Mike helped with household chores, brought flowers, and prepared dinner for his wife's return. Amanda enjoyed the domestic coziness. For the first time, the apartment felt truly warm, not just from the radiators, but from the presence of a loved one. Gradually, Mike started making himself at home. He rearranged the bedroom furniture, hung a mirror in the hallway that his mother had given him, bought a new TV, bigger and more modern. Amanda didn't object. The apartment was hers, but the family was shared. Mike quickly began to feel like the master of the house. He invited friends over without telling his wife, bought groceries according to his own preferences, changed the TV settings, installed new apps on the router. He did it naturally, without aggression, just like someone setting up their household. At first, Amanda even welcomed these changes. It meant her husband felt at home, that he viewed their apartment as a shared space. Wasn't that what she wanted when creating a family? Only after a few months did she notice that the word mine in reference to the apartment was being used less and less. Now it was our apartment, our living room, our balcony. Mike spoke this way, and Amanda unconsciously adopted the same intonation. But for now, it seemed natural. Family meant togetherness, unity. What's mine and yours should become ours. Amanda was happy and didn't analyze the details. The main thing was that they were together, they had a home, and their life ahead awaited them. She didn't yet know that very soon, Sabrina would enter their lives, and the notion of ours would take on a completely different meaning. Sabrina announced her arrival on Thursday evening, and by Saturday morning, she was already on their doorstep, with 2 huge suitcases and the expression of someone who had come to conduct an inspection. Amanda opened the door in a housecoat, coffee cup in hand, and immediately felt out of place. "Hello, dear," her mother-in-law said coldly, scanning her daughter-in-law from slippers to casually gathered hair. "Is Mike still asleep?" "Good morning, Sabrina. Please, come in." "Mike's in the shower," Amanda replied, stepping aside to let the guest into the hallway. Sabrina removed her expensive coat, clearly far beyond the means of a communal apartment resident, and began surveying the apartment. Her gaze skimmed over the walls, furniture, and decor, with the expression of an expert appraising a debtor's property. "Mike!" she exclaimed as her son emerged from the bathroom. "Finally, I can see how you live." Mike hugged his mother, and Amanda noticed how he changed instantly. His voice softened, his movements became more delicate, as if some internal model sun switch had been flipped. "Mom, how was the trip? Not too tiring?" Mike asked, genuinely concerned. He seated Sabrina in an armchair, brought her water, fussing like a waiter in a fine restaurant. "The train was comfortable," the mother-in-law said, surveying the living room. "But the apartment is small. I thought it would be more spacious." Amanda felt a tightening in her chest. 38 square meters wasn't just an apartment. It was 7 years of her life, 7 years of saving on everything. It was her personal victory, her achievement. "It's cozy, though," she said, forcing a smile. "And the neighborhood's good, with developed infrastructure." "Yes, of course," Sabrina nodded, with the look of someone politely agreeing. "The main thing is that the young couple is happy." Breakfast turned into a trial. The mother-in-law criticized the coffee, too strong, the eggs, overcooked, the bread, stale. Amanda remade dishes, changed the coffee blend, ran to the store for a fresh loaf. Mike nodded along, supporting every remark. "Amanda is still learning to cook," he explained. "You don't get much practice in a dorm." "I didn't live in a dorm," Amanda countered. "I had a rented room." "Well, same thing," Mike waved his hand. Sabrina stood up from the table and began inspecting the kitchen, opening cupboards, checking the fridge, touching the dishes. She acted like a homeowner returning after a long absence. "The spices need rearranging," she declared, starting a reorganization. "And there aren't enough cleaning supplies. Mike, you know I'm allergic. I need hypoallergenic detergents." "Of course, Mom," Mike noted something in his phone. "Amanda, could you go to the store today?" Amanda watched as this stranger took over her kitchen and remained silent. Objecting seemed petty. Sabrina was her husband's mother, an elderly guest. She'd have to endure the weekend. But the mother-in-law clearly wasn't going to stop at the kitchen. After breakfast, she moved on to the living room. "The sofa is in the wrong place," she announced. "It needs to face the window. The coffee table blocks the walkway. The floor lamp casts bad shadows. Mike, help me move it." Her son obediently carried furniture around the apartment. Amanda sat on the balcony, smoking. She had quit 2 years ago, but an emergency pack still lay in the bedside drawer for moments of extreme stress. The moment had definitely arrived. After the rearrangement, the apartment looked unfamiliar. The sofa was indeed more comfortable, the table no longer obstructed the space, and the room seemed larger. But it was no longer the living room Amanda had arranged. It had become a space reshaped according to someone else's idea of comfort. Much better now, Sabrina concluded satisfactorily. I have a trained eye. I worked as a designer in my youth. In the evening, when her mother-in-law settled on the fold-out sofa to watch a series, Amanda tried to speak with her husband. Mike, I feel uncomfortable with your mother moving the furniture, she said quietly, so Sabrina wouldn't hear. Come on, he waved her off. She wants to help. And look, it's better now. It's not about better or worse. It's my apartment. I decide how the furniture is arranged. Our apartment, Mike corrected. We're a family, and Mom is close to us. She cares about us. Amanda realized arguing was pointless. Mike didn't see a problem, which meant he didn't see a need to change anything. She went to bed thinking that by tomorrow evening, Sabrina would leave, and everything would return to normal. But in the morning, her mother-in-law announced she would stay until Monday. Things in Washington can wait, but I want to spend more time with the young couple. Besides, I need to teach Amanda the family recipes. Mike's used to a certain type of food. Sunday turned into a cooking masterclass. Sabrina taught her daughter-in-law how to make borscht her way, meatballs her way, salad her way. Each recipe was accompanied by a story about how Mike had loved it since childhood. You need to chop the onion finer, she corrected. And the carrot, not on a grater, use a knife. Mike doesn't like it when the carrot is too soft. Amanda chopped, sliced, and mixed under careful guidance. Her mother-in-law stood nearby, commenting on every movement, correcting mistakes, feeling like a teacher in a culinary school for incapable students. At your age, I was already able to cook for 10 people, Sabrina sighed. But don't worry, you'll learn. The main thing is the desire. Mike tasted the result and admired it. Mom, just like in childhood. Amanda, pay attention. Amanda paid attention and stayed silent. She wanted to say that she could cook, that she had her own favorite dishes, that not everything in the world had to be done the way Mike was used to. But family harmony seemed more important than personal ambition. In the evening, when Sabrina went to bed, she suddenly stopped in the bedroom doorway. Mike, where are you going to hang my portrait? What portrait, Mom? I brought my photo in a frame. I thought you'd put it in the living room or the bedroom. Amanda saw Mike hesitate. A portrait of her mother-in-law in their bedroom, that was already too much, even for him. Maybe in the kitchen? He suggested. There's more space there. In the kitchen? Sabrina was offended. Among the pots and pans? In the living room, Amanda quickly said. We'll put it on the dresser. Her mother-in-law nodded in satisfaction and went to bed. Amanda looked at the portrait. Sabrina in her youth, beautiful, with a haughty expression. Amanda understood that it wasn't just a photograph, it was a symbol of presence, a sign that there was now another mistress in the house. Monday brought relief, but temporary. Sabrina left, but promised to return in 2 weeks. And then again in another 2. And again. I'm so lonely in Washington, she explained. In the shared apartment, the neighbors have completely gone wild. Brittany in the next room plays music until 2 in the morning. I tell her, I have a weak heart. And she answers rudely. Amanda sympathized out of politeness. Life in a shared apartment was indeed difficult, especially for an elderly person. But every story about neighbors' problems ended the same way, with a hint of how wonderful it would be to live in normal conditions. And that Vincent from the third room cooks some smelly fish, Sabrina complained during another visit. The whole corridor stinks. I open the windows wide, but it doesn't help. Maybe you should talk to the management company? Amanda suggested. What can they do? They don't care, as long as the money keeps coming. Every weekend followed the same scenario, Sabrina arriving Saturday morning, criticizing the apartment, rearranging furniture, giving cooking lessons, complaining about communal life. Amanda got used to the rhythm but never got used to the feeling that in her own home she had become a guest. Her mother-in-law knew where everything was better than the owner herself, remembered which groceries were running out, which cleaning products needed to be bought when the utility bill came. She behaved like someone temporarily away from home but fully aware of all household affairs. Amanda, why didn't you dust the windowsill? She asked, running her finger along the surface. And the flowers need repotting. The soil is exhausted. Mike, tell your wife it's better to buy sea salt instead of regular. It's healthier. Darling, when did you change the bed linen? Mike added. I think it's time. Amanda followed instructions, buying sea salt, changing the sheets, repotting the flowers. Resisting seemed petty. Sabrina was an elderly woman, her husband's mother. She meant well. And besides, maybe it really was better. Sea salt is healthier, flowers need repotting, dust should be wiped more often. But with each visit, Amanda felt herself losing control over her own space. The apartment adjusted to Sabrina's tastes and needs. The fridge filled with products her mother-in-law liked. In the bathroom, shampoo for dyed hair. In the medicine cabinet, blood pressure medicine. Can Mom stay for a week? Mike asked one Friday. There's renovation in her shared apartment. It's impossible to live there. Of course, Amanda replied, though her chest tightened. The week stretched into 10 days. Sabrina settled in completely, no longer asking permission for small rearrangements, moving vases, changing the placement of towels, rearranging books on the shelves. Naturally, she did it like a housekeeper tidying the home. Amanda came home from work and didn't recognize the apartment. Formally, nothing had changed drastically, but the atmosphere had shifted. It was a space organized according to someone else's rules, for someone else's habits. You don't mind that I hung curtains in the bedroom? Sabrina asked at dinner. Yours are too light. The sun makes it hard to sleep. Amanda looked at the dark, heavy curtains that had turned the bedroom into something like a crypt and nodded. No, I don't mind. And I also noticed that your bathroom has poor ventilation. You need to call a specialist. Okay, I'll call someone. And the mirror in the hallway hangs too low. Mike, move it higher. Mike obediently picked up the tools. Amanda stayed silent and ate the soup her mother-in-law had made using her own recipe, in her own kitchen, with her own ingredients, in her own apartment. When Sabrina finally left, Amanda tried to return everything to its previous places. But she realized she no longer remembered exactly how things had been arranged before. Habits had changed, the new placement of objects began to feel natural. She sat in the armchair, the very one her mother-in-law had moved to the window, and suddenly realized she felt like a guest in her own home. The apartment was no longer entirely her territory. Now it was a space constantly influenced by other people's tastes, habits, and rules. How was your week? Mike asked, coming home from work. Fine, Amanda replied. And it was true. Everything was fine, polite, civilized, family-like. No shouting, no rudeness, no scandals. Sabrina was an educated woman with good manners. She simply, slowly, persistently, and inevitably turned someone else's apartment into her own territory. And Amanda allowed it because she didn't know how to resist without seeming selfish or quarrelsome. She still didn't realize that something serious was happening. It seemed to her like temporary inconveniences, something to endure for the sake of family peace. She didn't yet know that Sabrina had no intention of being content with temporary visits. She had much more ambitious plans. The idea of celebrating Sabrina's 60th birthday in style came from Mike. At the end of September, 2 months before the anniversary, he told Amanda he wanted to throw his mother a proper celebration. 60 is a serious milestone, he said at breakfast. Mom has always scrimped on herself, raised me alone. It's time to show that we appreciate her sacrifices. Amanda nodded, mentally calculating the expenses: restaurant, gifts, maybe guests from other cities. It would cost a lot, but she didn't object. Sabrina really did deserve a proper celebration. How many people will there be? She asked. About 20, no more. Relatives, a few of Mom's friends. Nothing extravagant. Planning began in October. Mike approached it with the enthusiasm of someone organizing a celebration for the first time in his life, researching restaurant websites, calling managers, comparing prices. Amanda helped with the menu, floral arrangements, and invitations. And what should we give her? She asked once the main organizational issues were settled. I'm thinking, Mike replied, and fell silent. In the following days, he behaved strangely. He was pensive and quiet at dinner, writing in a notebook that he kept closed from his wife. Several times Amanda caught him studying some documents, but he quickly hid them. Mike, what's wrong? She asked again when he distractedly nodded at her story about work problems. Everything's fine, he said. I'm just thinking about Mom's gift. I want to make it something special. Amanda suggested several options: gold earrings, a nice watch, a spa trip. But Mike shook his head. Too ordinary, not significant enough for such a milestone. Mom has always dreamed of decent living conditions, he said one evening. This shared apartment is just killing her. The neighbors are rude. The hallway is always dirty. The bathroom is shared. True, Amanda agreed. But what can we do? We can't afford to buy an apartment. Who knows? Mike said mysteriously. Maybe we can. Amanda didn't understand what he meant but didn't ask. Her husband clearly had a plan he wasn't ready to discuss yet. Mike's odd behavior intensified. He began frequently speaking on the phone, stepping into another room. Amanda overheard fragments of conversations, something about documents, rights, property. Several times it seemed he was talking to his mother. But when she asked, Mike said he was discussing work matters. His interest in the apartment documents was particularly suspicious. Mike suddenly became curious about where the title documents were stored, how the ownership was registered, whether there were any restrictions. Why do you need that? Amanda asked, surprised. Just curious, her husband shrugged. We're a family, I should know what property we have. He studied the purchase agreement, the bank statement, and the loan contract. He asked questions about how to register a property gift, what documents were needed, and whether it was possible to transfer an apartment to another person without a notary. Are you trying to transfer the apartment to me? Amanda asked, trying to understand her husband's logic. No, of course not, Mike laughed. I'm just looking into it. Might be useful someday. Amanda calmed down. Mike was meticulous and liked to understand details. Maybe he just wanted to better understand the legal nuances of family property. 2 weeks before the anniversary, an incident occurred that should have made her suspicious. Mike asked to see her passport, supposedly to process some documents at his company. Amanda handed it over without thinking. An hour later, she noticed him taking photos of something on his phone. What are you doing? She asked. Copying the information for accounting, Mike replied quickly, putting the phone away. Amanda didn't think much of it. Accounting did sometimes require copies of spouses' documents for tax deductions and other formalities. But a few days later, she found him in the study with the apartment documents spread out on the desk. He was cross-checking, making notes, examining each page with the precision of a lawyer. Mike, Can you explain what's going on? She asked directly. Preparing Mom's gift, he said without looking up. What gift could possibly involve the documents for our apartment? Not ours, yours, he corrected. The apartment is in your name. It's your premarital property. Yeah. So legally, you can do whatever you want with it. Sell, gift, bequeath. Amanda felt something cold stir in her chest. She was beginning to understand what her husband was hinting at but didn't want to believe her suspicions. Mike, you don't mean to give my apartment to your mother, do you? Why not? He finally looked at her. Think about it. Mom has suffered in a shared apartment all her life. We're young, we can rent something or take out a new mortgage. And for her, it's a chance to finally live like a human being. Amanda sank into the armchair, unable to believe what she was hearing. Her husband was seriously suggesting she give the apartment she had been saving for 7 years to her mother-in-law as a birthday gift. Mike, do you understand what you're saying? This apartment is the result of 7 years of my life. I worked 2 jobs, denied myself everything. That's exactly why it would be such a generous act. Mike's eyes glowed with enthusiasm. Imagine how everyone would admire your generosity. What a daughter-in-law, people would say. She gave her own apartment to her mother-in-law. I don't want people to admire my generosity at my own expense. Amanda, don't be selfish. Mom is getting older. She needs comfortable conditions. We're young, healthy, we'll earn more. Earn more? Amanda couldn't believe her husband's audacity. Are you planning to work 2 jobs for 12 hours a day? Save on clothes? Don't dramatize. I'll find a way to solve our housing problems. What problems? We don't have housing problems. We have an apartment. You have an apartment, Mike corrected. And if you really love my family, you'll share it. Amanda stood up and left the study. She needed to be alone to process what was happening. Her husband was proposing she give the apartment to his mother, not asking, not discussing, but presenting it as self-evident. In the evening, she tried to return to the conversation. Mike, I'm not ready to give your mother my apartment. Sorry, but it's impossible. Why impossible? He looked at her with genuine puzzlement. Because it's my apartment. I saved for it. I bought it. I'm paying the mortgage. But we're a family. My mother is now your mother too. Sabrina is not my mother, Amanda said firmly. She's a mother-in-law who constantly criticizes me and rearranges furniture in my home. See, you're so mean, Mike took offense. Mom is trying to help, and you only see the bad. I see that your mom wants my apartment, and you're helping her. She doesn't want anything. It's my idea, my gift to her. Mike, find another gift, earrings, a bracelet, a trip, anything but my apartment. Mike fell silent, but Amanda could see he was not giving up. In his eyes was the determination of a man and used to hearing no. The next day, Sabrina arrived earlier than usual, supposedly to help with the final preparations for the celebration. But Amanda noticed that her mother-in-law was acting strangely, nervous, glancing at her daughter-in-law critically, whispering to her son about something. Amanda, dear, she addressed her daughter-in-law over tea. Mike told me about his idea for a gift. What idea? Amanda tensed. Well, about the apartment. Of course, I couldn't accept such an expensive gift. That's good, Amanda breathed a sigh of relief. Mike, you see, Mom is against it herself. But, Sabrina continued, if it really comes from the heart, then why not? Life in a shared apartment is really hard for me. Amanda realized she had walked into a trap. Her mother-in-law formally refused the gift, but immediately made it clear she was willing to accept it. Sabrina, I am not going to give the apartment, she said firmly. Oh, really? Her mother-in-law's expression changed. So your son could move into your apartment, but his mother can't? Mike is my husband, but am I a stranger? Just some random person? You are my husband's mother, and I respect you. But the apartment is mine, and I'm not giving it away. I see. Sabrina pursed her lips. So comfort for the young wife is more important than the well-being of an elderly woman. Mom, don't be upset, Mike intervened. Amanda will think about it. There's nothing for me to think about, Amanda cut in. After this conversation, the atmosphere in the house grew tense. Sabrina acted offended. Mike played the disappointed son who couldn't please his mother because of his heartless wife. Amanda felt guilty, even though she knew she was right. 3 days before the anniversary, a serious conversation took place. Mike waited until his mother went to the store and then put his wife through a real interrogation. Amanda, explain to me, what's the problem? He began calmly. The problem is that you want to give my apartment to your mother without my consent. I want to do something good for someone close. Is that bad? Do good at your own expense, not mine. But I don't have an apartment. Mike raised his voice for the first time. I have nothing at all. You knew who you were marrying. Who I was marrying. A pauper? A person who simply hasn't had time to save for housing yet. Unlike you, I didn't work 2 jobs because I was supporting my mother. So now it's my turn to support her? It's not about support, it's about human compassion. Mom sacrificed her whole life for me. Now I want to do something for her. Then do it yourself. Find a better job. Save money. Buy her an apartment. That will take years, and Mom is already old, sick. Mike, I am not obligated to solve your mother's problems at the expense of my own apartment. You are, he said suddenly firmly. We're family. Family means helping each other. Family is you and me, not you and your mother against me. No one is against you. I just can't abandon my mother in trouble. What trouble? She lives in a shared apartment, not on the street. For you, a shared apartment is normal? Mike looked at his wife with disdain. For a person her age and situation, yes. It's what she can afford. Cruel, Mike concluded. Very cruel. Amanda realized that convincing her husband was impossible. He was certain he was right. Moreover, he clearly discussed the situation with his mother and had her full support. On the eve of the anniversary, Mike was on edge, pacing the apartment, checking things on the phone, nervously smoking on the balcony. Amanda offered him a sedative. Mike, you're overthinking. It's just a birthday. Everything will be fine. You don't understand, he snapped. It's very important to Mom. What exactly is important? To feel loved and needed. She already knows you love her. Words are one thing, actions are another. Amanda realized that her husband was determined to carry out his plan, but how? The apartment was in her name. Without her signature, nothing could be done, or could it? She tried to recall which documents Mike had studied, what he searched online. Maybe he had found some legal loophole. But no, under Russian law, premarital property belongs only to the spouse who acquired it. In the evening, when Sabrina went to bed, her husband sat beside her on the sofa and took her hand. Amanda, I want you to know, I love you very much, he said. I love you too, she replied, surprised by his unexpected sentimentality. And everything I do for our family. Mike, if you are planning something with the apartment, forget it. I will not sign any documents. What documents? He looked at her in surprise. What are you talking about? That the apartment is mine and will remain mine. Of course, darling, Mike kissed her hand. No one is going to take anything away from you. Amanda felt a wave of relief. Perhaps her husband had finally realized that his plan was impossible. Maybe tomorrow he would give his mother something normal, jewelry, gadgets, or a vacation. In the morning, on the day of the celebration, Mike woke up earlier than usual. Amanda heard him speaking quietly on the phone in the kitchen, clarifying details, giving instructions. When she came out for breakfast, he looked both excited and determined. "Is everything ready?" Sabrina asked, appearing in the kitchen in her festive robe. "Everything is ready, Mom," Mike replied, hugging his mother. Amanda watched them, feeling that something was slipping past her understanding. There was some special connection between mother and son, some mutual understanding that she was not part of. "Amanda, are you ready for today?" Her mother-in-law asked with a strange intonation. "Of course," she answered. "The dress is ironed, the gift is wrapped." "What gift?" Mike asked quickly. "The gold earrings we bought yesterday." "Oh, really?" He nodded. "They're very beautiful." But from his tone, Amanda understood that the earrings were just a small thing. The main gift would be something else. "Mike, what are you actually giving Mom?" She asked directly. "You'll see," he said with a mysterious smile. "It will be unforgettable." "Unforgettable for everyone," added Sabrina. There was a hint of threat in her voice, but Amanda decided she must have imagined it. Today was her mother-in-law's birthday. She needed to get into the festive spirit. She didn't yet know that in a few hours she would understand the true meaning of Sabrina's words. The banquet hall of the Forest restaurant looked grand. White tablecloths, fresh flowers, the soft glow of chandeliers created the atmosphere of a real celebration. Amanda inspected the set tables, checked the placement of the guest cards, and adjusted the rows arrangement at the center of the main table. Everything was perfect. Exactly the way she had envisioned a worthy anniversary. Guests started arriving at 7 p.m. Relatives came from different parts of the city, aunts in elegant dresses, uncles in formal suits, cousins with their spouses. Amanda knew them little, having only met at a wedding, but everyone was politely and deliberately friendly. Sabrina appeared in the hall in a new dark blue dress, with her hair carefully styled and eyes sparkling. She looked younger than her 60 years and clearly enjoyed the attention. She greeted each guest with hugs, receiving congratulations with the dignity of a queen. "Sabrina, you look wonderful," admired the celebrant's sister, Molly. "Mike takes such good care of you," added her niece Rachel. "You can see that a son loves his mother." "And the daughter-in-law is wonderful too," chimed in a neighbor at the table, nodding toward Amanda. "Organized such a lovely evening." Amanda smiled, accepted the compliments, and made sure the waiters served the dishes on time. She had indeed put a lot of effort into organizing the celebration, studying the menu, choosing the flowers, planning the program. She wanted Sabrina to have the best possible memories of her anniversary. Mike was especially attentive to his mother that evening, sitting close, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh, pouring wine, offering the best bites, and making sure she was never left unattended for a moment. Amanda felt happy seeing how delighted her husband was at the opportunity to please his mother. Toasts followed one after another, for the health of the celebrant, for her wisdom, for longevity. Each guest felt it their duty to say a few warm words. Sabrina listened, nodded, and occasionally wiped away tears of happiness. "Thank you all," she said when the round of toasts ended. "I am so happy to celebrate this day surrounded by my dearest people." Then came the parade of gifts. Molly gave gold earrings with pearls, delicate, expensive, clearly chosen with taste. Niece Rachel presented a soft cashmere shawl in a pale blue color. Former colleagues gave a set of French cosmetics. "How beautiful!" Sabrina admired, trying on the earrings. "Molly, you always had impeccable taste." "And this shawl looks incredible on you," added Rachel. "It brings out your eye color." Amanda also gave her gift, gold earrings with small diamonds. They were not cheap, but she wanted to show generosity. Sabrina accepted the gift gratefully, but Amanda noticed that her mother-in-law set the box aside faster than the other presents. "Very sweet of you, dear," she said with a strained smile. When all the gifts had been handed out, a brief pause fell over the hall. Guests sipped the last of their wine, chatted quietly among themselves, relaxed after the formal part of the evening. But suddenly, Mike stood up from the table, holding a glass of champagne. "Dear friends," he began, and gradually the chatter in the room died down. "Allow me to say a few more words about our celebrant." Everyone turned to him. Sabrina straightened in her chair, her eyes shining with anticipation. "My mother is an extraordinary woman," Mike continued. "She has devoted her entire life to me, worked 2 jobs, denied herself pleasures just to give me an education and upbringing." "Well done, Mike," Molly nodded approvingly. "And today, on her 60th birthday, I want to show that her sacrifices were not in vain, that her son remembers and values everything she has done for him." Amanda listened to her husband's speech, feeling a slight unease. Something in his tone and expression told her that something important was about to happen. She glanced at Sabrina and saw a tense expectancy in her eyes. "Mom," Mike turned to the celebrant. "All your life, you dreamed of having your own apartment, a place where you wouldn't have to share a kitchen or bathroom with strangers, a home where no one would disturb you." Amanda felt her heart start to race. She understood where her husband was leading, but she couldn't believe he would actually do it. "And today, your dream comes true." Mike pulled a bundle of keys from his pocket and solemnly raised them above his head. "Mom, this is from Amanda and me. Now you have your own apartment, where no one will bother you." The hall erupted in applause. Guests jumped to their feet, shouting, "Bravo! Wonderful! How generous!" Sabrina pressed her hands to her chest, tears filling her eyes. She stood, hugged her son, clutched the keys tightly as if afraid someone would take them away. "Mike," she sobbed. "I can't believe it. Is this real?" "It's real, Mom," Mike stroked her head. "Now you have your own home." "My goodness, what children!" exclaimed Molly. "Sabrina, you are incredibly lucky. Such daughters-in-law are rare," shouted someone from a distant table. "Giving your mother-in-law her own apartment. Amanda, well done." Niece Rachel patted her on the shoulder. "That's the act of a true daughter." Amanda sat stunned, struck as if by lightning. Emotions were running high around her. Guests were admiring the generosity of the young couple, and she could not utter a word. At first, she thought she had misheard, that her husband meant some other apartment, but then she saw his satisfied face, Sabrina's triumphant expression, and realized. Mike had just given his mother her apartment, without consulting her, without asking permission, simply taken and given away the result of 7 years of her grueling work. "Mike," she began, but her voice was too quiet amidst the general noise. "Where is the apartment?" asked Uncle Mikhail, Sabrina's brother. "On Komenditsky Prospect," Mike answered proudly. "New building, 14th floor, 38M. Lovely area," the uncle approved. "Metro nearby, shops too." "I remember that apartment," said Rachel. Amanda had shown the photos at the wedding. "Very cozy, nicely renovated. Now it's Mom's apartment," added Mike. Let her finally live like a normal person. But the most terrifying thing wasn't that her husband had given away her apartment. The most terrifying thing was something else. Sabrina was not at all surprised by the gift. On the contrary, she received congratulations with the look of someone who had long known about the surprise. She didn't hesitate, didn't ask how this could be, didn't try to refuse. She just sat back in her chair, clutching the keys tightly in her hands, smiling with the happy smile of someone whose dream had come true. It meant they had planned everything in advance. Mother and son had staged an entire performance, using Amanda as the donor. She was not a wife but a source of housing for the family. Mike had married her not out of love but out of calculation. All these months of tenderness, care, and family coziness, everything had been a deception. "Amanda, dear," Sabrina took her hand. "I don't know how to thank you. This is the most precious gift of my life." Amanda finally found her voice. This is my premarital apartment. I bought it with my own money. Of course, dear, her mother-in-law nodded. That is why your gift is so precious to me. You gave something you earned with your own effort, but I did not consent to this gift. Don't be modest, Sabrina smiled. Mike told me how worried you were about my living conditions, how you wanted to help but were shy to offer. Amanda realized she had fallen into a trap. Her mother-in-law pretended gratitude and admiration, but in her eyes was the cold gleam of victory. She had gotten what she wanted and had no intention of giving anything back. Mom, Mike sat down next to her with a satisfied smile. Now you won't have to put up with those neighbors. Vincent and his fish, Brittany and her music. Yes, son, Sabrina squeezed his hand. Finally, I'll be living in decent conditions. Mike, Amanda tried to get her husband's attention. I need to talk to you. Later, dear, he waved her off. See, Mom's excited. We need to calm her down. Amanda, I understand it's hard for you to part with the apartment, Sabrina said with fake sympathy. But think of how much joy you've given an elderly person. I didn't give anything. Amanda raised her voice, and a few neighbors at the table turned toward her. Mike did it without my knowledge. Amanda, what are you saying? Molly looked at her reproachfully. Do you regret giving a gift to your mother-in-law? I regret the apartment I saved for 7 years. But now you'll be living with Mike, Rachel said. Young people should be together. Together? Amanda said, her voice strained. I no longer have an apartment. You'll find something else, Sabrina shrugged. You're young and healthy, and at my age, it's too late to change anything. Amanda stood up from the table. Around her sat people who believed she should be happy to make her mother-in-law happy at her own expense. No one understood that a robbery had taken place in broad daylight. Listen carefully, she shouted across the hall. These keys are to my premarital apartment, which I bought with my own money. Your golden boy decided to give Mom a gift at my expense. Silence fell over the room. Guests exchanged glances, unsure of what was happening. Sabrina went pale but did not release the keys. Amanda, calm down, Mike said quietly. You know we're family. My mom is now your mom too. Your mom is a greedy woman who laid claim to someone else's apartment. Amanda snatched the keys from her mother-in-law. And you helped her. How dare you? Sabrina jumped to her feet. Ungrateful. I always knew you were selfish. Selfish? Amanda laughed hysterically. You and your son are selfish. He married me for the apartment, and you were plotting how to get it. Stop it immediately. Mike tried to grab his wife's hand, but she pulled away. Don't touch me. She headed for the exit. Pack your things and get out of my apartment. What a horror, whispered the guests. How can you treat an elderly woman like this? Poor Sabrina, sighed Molly. She ended up in such a family. Mike caught up with his wife in the restaurant hallway and grabbed her shoulder. Amanda, what are you doing? You'll humiliate us in front of all the relatives. You humiliated me. She spun toward him. You made me look like a fool who doesn't know her husband is giving away her apartment. But the apartment won't disappear. Mom will live there, and we'll find something else. Find something else? Amanda looked at him with disgust. Will you find the money for a new apartment? Not right away, of course, he answered. But we'll manage. She swung her purse and hit him in the face. Get out of my apartment immediately. Mike tried to say something, but Amanda was already heading for the exit. The taxi driver looked at the disheveled woman in an evening dress in surprise but remembered the address. At home, Amanda changed the locks first thing. The locksmith arrived an hour later, worked quickly and silently. Then she packed Mike's belongings into a suitcase and placed it on the landing. Her husband appeared 2 hours later, drunk and angry. He rang the doorbell repeatedly, banged on the door, demanding to be let in. Amanda remained silent, sitting in the kitchen with a cup of tea. "Amanda, open up," he shouted. "We can discuss everything." "There's nothing to discuss," she replied through the door. "Your things are on the landing. You can't kick me out. I'm your former husband. I'll file for divorce tomorrow." Mike raged on the stairs for another half hour, then fell silent. Amanda peeked through the peephole. The landing was empty. Only the suitcase remained against the wall. The divorce went quickly. Mike tried to claim a share of the apartment through the court, but Amanda's lawyer explained that premarital property belongs solely to the spouse who purchased it under Russian law. Property acquired before marriage is not subject to division. "Your husband has no rights to the apartment," said lawyer Lucas Sims. "Moreover, his attempt to gift someone else's property constitutes fraud. Can he be held accountable? Technically, yes, but practically it's difficult. He never completed the paperwork, so no damage was caused. And what about the keys? Keys are not proof of ownership. Changing the locks completely resolves the issue." Sabrina remained in the communal apartment, where the neighbors had become even more unbearable after the restaurant scandal. Molly told everyone the story of the greedy daughter-in-law who took a gift from an elderly woman. Sabrina's reputation suffered. Everyone understood that she had been complicit in the scheme. A year later, Amanda married her lawyer. Lucas turned out to be an honorable man who respected her independence and never attempted to interfere with her property. The wedding was modest, attended only by close friends. Mike married his former classmate, Cheryl. She worked as a bank manager, owned a two-room apartment, and knew the value of money. When Mike hinted that his mother needed housing help, Cheryl replied, "Your mother is your problem. I work for my own family, not your relatives." Sabrina still lives in the communal apartment. Vincent from the third room still cooks fish, Brittany still plays music, and the corridor remains dirty. She is aging, ill, and has no one to help her. Mike visits occasionally, bringing groceries, but the apartment is no longer discussed. Sometimes she sees Amanda in the store or on the street. Her former daughter-in-law looks happy, dressed stylishly, with an older man clearly successful and well-off by her side. Sabrina quickly looks away, but Amanda always greets her politely and coldly. "Hello, Sabrina. How are you?" "Thank you." "Fine," mumbles her mother-in-law and hurries away. After each encounter, Sabrina remembers that night at the restaurant, the keys in her hands, the applause of the guests, the feeling of victory. How close she had been to fulfilling her dream. All she had to do was hold onto the keys, but greed overpowered reason, and foolishness overpowered calculation. Now she knows that some gifts are better left unaccepted, especially when they come at someone else's expense.